When it comes to choosing an operating system in 2025, the debate between macOS and Linux has become more interesting than ever before. Not just because both platforms have matured significantly, but because the needs of users have evolved alongside them. Whether you're a developer, content creator, student, or everyday user, the choice you make today will shape how efficiently you work, how secure your system is, and even how much control you have over your own machine. So instead of rushing into conclusions, let's take a deep and honest journey through what macOS and Linux truly offer in 2025, how they compare in real-world use, and which one might actually be better depending on who you are and what you need. Starting with macOS, it's important to understand that Apple's operating system has always been about refinement, polish, and seamless integration. In 2025, macOS continues that tradition with even tighter hardware and software optimization, especially with Apple's own silicon chips. Everything feels smooth, from boot times to application launches, and the overall user experience is incredibly consistent. You don't need to tweak much or spend hours configuring your system because it's designed to just work right out of the box. For many users, this is a huge advantage because it removes complexity and allows them to focus on productivity instead of system maintenance. On the other hand, Linux has taken a very different path to reach its current state. Rather than being controlled by a single company, Linux is a massive open-source ecosystem made up of different distributions, communities, and philosophies. In 2025, Linux is more user-friendly than ever. Distributions like Ubuntu, Fedora, and Linux Mint offering polished interfaces that rival even macOS in terms of usability. But the core idea of Linux remains the same: freedom, customization, and control. You are not locked into a single way of doing things. You can modify almost everything, from the desktop environment to the kernel itself, which makes Linux incredibly powerful for those who are willing to learn. When comparing performance, differences between macOS and Linux can be subtle yet significant depending on your hardware and use case. macOS is tightly optimized for Apple hardware, which means performance is predictable and stable. Applications are designed specifically for the hardware they run on, resulting in efficient power usage and impressive battery life, especially on laptops. Linux, however, can run on a wide range of hardware from old machines to high-end workstations. This flexibility means that performance can vary, but it also means you can breathe new life into older systems. In many cases, Linux can actually outperform macOS on similar hardware because it is lightweight and doesn't include unnecessary background processes. Another major factor is software availability. macOS has a strong ecosystem of professional applications, especially for creative work. Tools for video editing, music production, and design are often better optimized and more widely supported on macOS. If your workflow depends on specific commercial software, macOS might be the safer choice. Linux, however, has made huge strides in this area. Open-source alternatives have improved dramatically, and many popular tools are now available on Linux as well. Additionally, compatibility layers and containerization technologies allow Linux users to run software that wasn't originally designed for the platform, although it may require some extra effort. For developers, the comparison becomes even more interesting. macOS offers a Unix-based environment with a polished interface, making it a favorite among developers who want both power and convenience. It supports a wide range of programming languages and tools. The integration with Apple's ecosystem is a big plus for those developing for iOS or macOS itself. Linux, however, is often considered the ultimate developer's platform, provides complete control over the system, native support for open-source tools, and an environment that closely matches production servers. In 2025, many developers prefer Linux because it allows them to replicate real-world deployment environments more accurately. Security is another area where both operating systems excel, but in different ways. macOS benefits from Apple's controlled ecosystem, which reduces the risk of malware and ensures regular updates. The company takes a proactive approach to security, implementing features like system integrity protection and sandboxing. Linux, on the other hand, relies on its open-source nature and strong permission model. Because the code is publicly available, vulnerabilities can be identified and fixed quickly by the community. Additionally, Linux systems are less commonly targeted by malware, although this is changing as Linux becomes more popular. Customization is where Linux truly shines. If you want your system to look and behave exactly the way you want, Linux gives you that freedom. You can choose from different desktop environments, themes, and configurations to create a completely personalized experience. macOS, while offering some customization options, is far more restrictive. Apple prioritizes consistency and simplicity, which means users have limited control over certain aspects of the system. Some people, this is a benefit because it reduces complexity, but for others, it can feel limiting. Hardware compatibility is another important consideration. macOS is designed specifically for Apple devices, which means you have limited hardware choices, but excellent compatibility within that ecosystem. Everything works together seamlessly, from the trackpad gestures to the display scaling. Linux, however, supports a vast range of hardware, including custom-built PCs. This flexibility allows users to choose components that suit their needs and budget, but it can also lead to compatibility issues in some cases. That said, hardware support on Linux has improved significantly in recent years, and most modern devices work without major problems. When it comes to updates and system maintenance, macOS offers a streamlined experience. Updates are delivered regularly and can be installed with minimal effort. The system handles most maintenance tasks automatically, which is ideal for users who don't want to deal with technical details. Linux, depending on the distribution, can require more involvement. While many modern distributions offer automatic updates, users still have more responsibility when it comes to managing their system. However, this also means you have more control over what gets updated and when. Cost is another factor that can influence your decision. macOS is tied to Apple hardware, which tends to be more expensive than comparable PCs. When you buy a Mac, you're paying for both the hardware and the software experience. Linux, on the other hand, is completely free and can be installed on almost any computer. This makes it an attractive option for users who want to save money or repurpose older hardware. In terms of community and support, Linux has one of the most active and passionate communities in the tech world. If you encounter a problem, chances are someone else has already faced it and shared a solution online. Forums, documentation, and open source contributions make Linux a collaborative environment where users help each other. macOS, while not open source, has strong official support from Apple and a large user base. If you prefer structured support and customer service, macOS may feel more reliable. Looking at the future, both macOS and Linux are evolving in exciting ways. Apple continues to push the boundaries of hardware and software integration, focusing on performance, efficiency, and user experience. Linux, meanwhile, is expanding its reach into new areas, from cloud computing to gaming and even mobile devices. In 2025, Linux gaming has improved significantly thanks to compatibility tools and better driver support, making it a viable option for gamers who previously relied on Windows or macOS. Ultimately, the question of which operating system is better doesn't have a one-size-fits-all answer. If you value simplicity, seamless integration, and access to professional software, macOS is likely the better choice for you. It offers a polished experience that requires minimal setup and works reliably for most tasks. However, if you prioritize freedom, customization, and control, Linux stands out as the more powerful option. It allows you to shape your system according to your needs and explore possibilities that are simply not available on macOS. The real difference comes down to mindset. macOS is about convenience and consistency, while Linux is about flexibility and empowerment. Neither approach is inherently better. Depends on what you value more. In 2025, both operating systems are incredibly capable, and the gap between them has narrowed in many areas. What used to be a clear divide has become a spectrum, with each platform borrowing ideas and improving based on user feedback. So if you're trying to decide between macOS and Linux, take a moment to think about how you use your computer. Do you want something that just works with minimal effort, or are you willing to invest time in learning and customizing your system? Do you rely on specific software, or are you open to exploring alternatives? Your answers to these questions will guide you toward the right choice. In the end, macOS and Linux represent two different philosophies in the world of computing, and both have their strengths and weaknesses. The best operating system is not the one that wins in a comparison, but the one that fits your workflow, your preferences, and your goals. And in 2025, you're lucky to have two incredibly powerful options to choose from.